Let's do it.
Well, I hate the word normal because I've never felt normal. Growing up in Southern California, I was always hanging out with the fun, hip crew, and I got a ton of love from my family. But underneath all of that, I was deeply confused. I would study for hours on a test or not study at all, and no matter what, I would always get a C. But when it came to any project or report, I would nail it. I would get an A. In high school, my teachers would let me take tests by myself in a separate room to see if I could concentrate better, but it didn't make any difference. I was very creative, determined, and hardworking, yet I felt dumb. Outwardly, I was confident, but inside, I was hurting. I hid my insecurities about school through excelling in parties, soccer, and boys. And while everyone around me prepared for the SATs, I didn't even try. College wasn't even in my vocabulary because I didn't think I was worthy or smart enough to get accepted. But I still went and took the test because that's what normal kids did. I will never forget sitting there and literally filling in the bubbles based on my friends' names. A for Alice, B for Bri, C for Chris because he was hot, D for Damon, and E for F off, over and over again. Even though I really didn't want to go to college and continue experiencing this loser-like feeling, I still enrolled myself at the local JC. I was ashamed not to be at a well-known school, but it was my only option, which lasted only a year. I told my mom that I had dropped out of school by throwing an awesome party when she was out of town. When my sweet mom came home, she didn't know if she should be more upset about the party and my super cute nose ring or the fact that I dropped out of school. My second year in college, I managed to get into Long Beach State. Back then, if you weren't actually accepted, you can go for one semester, and if you passed with the B+, then you can technically be enrolled as a real student. This was my time to finally prove myself. I studied and studied, yet could not do well. I passed, but with a 2.5 average, and I felt 100% defeated, done. I had let my mom down, who had spent a ton of money on college, which I had nothing to show for. That year, I met a very sweet, humble, funny, professional skateboarder with sweet eyes, and we started a serious relationship. He too never felt normal as he turned pro at 16 and never went to college. He supported me in making my own path. So at 21, I started my own jewelry company. I designed my own line and sold them in several boutiques in California and New York. Within 5 months, Simplicity was in 15 stores. I could barely hit my holiday deadlines because of the high demand, but I got bored quickly and changed gears. Next, I started a nonprofit in LA, which empowered youth to follow their dreams through a reading program and the skateboarding industry. Business plan was solidified and approved. Donations from large corporations were all delivered, pro skateboarders on board. Once I put those pieces in place, I once again was ready for a change. At 23, I started an event planning company with my mom. We planned huge corporate events and weddings that exceeded our dreams. But after a year of hauling shit around, I realized I wanted to work smarter, not harder. So I began to work for a clothing designer in LA. As their youngest employed sales consultant, I set my lofty goals, worked my ass off, and after 7 years, I hit my goal of achieving the highest company award. My passion soon fizzled, and I started to think about what else I could do with my life. To start a family was a dream of mine, but Mike and I struggled to make ends meet. His career faltered around the same time I got pregnant. I worked day and night to support our family, keep our home, and pay bills. I was so overworked that it began to take a real toll on my body. I was bedridden for a few weeks. In a time that should have been beautiful and exciting, I was sad, stressed, and deeply depressed. Pregnancy was awful for me as I dealt with keeping our lives afloat. 1 year after Samantha was born, my husband insisted that we move to Dallas for a more prosperous life with more business opportunity. It was the hardest decision of my life to leave my family. My mom and I are best friends, and being away from her killed my soul. But I made the compromise anyway because that's what wives do. I started a brand new PR firm and financially supported our family for the following 3 years while raising a child. I would cry in the shower to hide my tears and could barely take care of myself. Yet I faced the world with a smile on my face as I was out there building my brand. We moved to a new house just about every 6 months because we never could figure out our forever home. I hoped that change would make things better. But in my heart, I knew that we weren't a forever family. No matter what, I couldn't save my marriage, just like in school. My self-confidence issues began to get worse and spiraled into a constant depression. After hours of marriage counseling, I finally made the decision to get a divorce. Our friends and family were shocked. From the outside, we looked like this perfect little family that lived a beautiful life, but inside, I was hurting. Being by myself and focusing on my daughter opened my eyes to something that had never occurred to me, yet it made perfect sense: attention deficit disorder. Everything I ever did was extremely magnified and intense. My mind was constantly in gear, creating, thinking, and ultimately never resting. I started up a successful company every year, yet I couldn't stay focused long enough to see the future growth. Due to the constant activity in my mind, once a task is finished, I'm ready to move on to the next. When it came to emotions, they would run very high. So high that life would come to an utter stop because I couldn't concentrate on anything else if I was dealing with a personal issue. The day I realized I needed to make a change was 2 years ago. I drove over to Preston Center to meet some friends for lunch. I pulled up to park, and out of nowhere, I began to cry uncontrollably. I literally could not get out of the car. I felt like the whole entire world was staring at me, pointing at me, laughing at me. I didn't know what was going on. As a publicist and someone on TV, I was used to being in the public eye, so why the cold feet? I couldn't understand. I realized something was very wrong. I immediately called my mom, and she encouraged me to drive to my doctor. Within 20 minutes, I was sitting in his office. He confirmed that I'd been suffering with ADD for many years, and more recently was in a severe depression, and that day I'd hit rock bottom. I shared with him my darkest moments of death and suicide, how I felt like a burden to others and that my family and friends would be better off without me. I had demons in my head telling me that I'm a loser for not finishing school and that I had no existence. I hated myself as I felt like I failed as a wife. I couldn't get out of bed and honestly would dream of not waking up. It felt like a deep, dark hole that I could never climb out of. It was a real-life living hell. But finally surrendering myself and realizing that my brain chemicals are not fully right felt surprisingly good. Each day I face my debilitating disorder of depression and ADD straight in the face, and I probably will the rest of my life. But thank goodness for God, my family, friends, and my daily meds. And thank goodness for my ex. He and I always said that no matter what, we would have each other's back, even when I've wanted to kill him. But we've kept that promise. He's not only my daughter's father, but he's also my best friend. The old saying is true: never judge a book by its cover. For me, laughter, a positive attitude, and my daughter are what get me through each day. I not only want to make my family, friends, and colleagues proud, but I want to make my daughter the proudest of all. I live for her. It's because of Samantha I was able to get through my darkest hours. I may not know much, but what I do know is this: my life works when my heart is open and vulnerable. And being honest, compassionate, and loving is the way to live my kind of life. It's my biggest blessing in life to realize that I'm not the train wreck I thought I was. Instead, I'm a perfectly imperfect human who is doing her best to approach life with a smile.